What is up, guys? Alex from Creates here. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the unspoken problem about MP3s. I say unspoken because it doesn't seem to be a big topic. However, it affects music creators drastically. When you are sending files around to record to, this is a huge issue if you're using MP3s. So if there's anything you're going to take away from the first 15 seconds of this video, it is do not use MP3s as stems to record to. And I'm going to dive into why. Now, this is an issue that is beyond the quality of MP3s, which has been much debated, and I'm not going to talk about that. This is actually a fundamental problem within different DAWs that's inconsistent and a massive problem for recording with MP3s. Let's dive into it. So the issue I want to talk about today is something that not a lot of people either know exists or talk about the fact that it exists. MP3s are not good to record to. Beyond the quality, it's actually a timing issue. So what exactly is this timing issue that I'm talking about in MP3s? Well, when you export an MP3 or bounce an MP3 out of a DAW to be sent and imported into another DAW so that somebody can record to it, it actually adds a little bit of a space on the beginning of an MP3. Now, this doesn't affect you when you're just bouncing a mix to listen to, but when you're importing it into another DAW to play to that track, it is now slightly delayed from the original track. So you put it into a new DAW, you record to what you're hearing in that new DAW, you export that and send it back. It's not actually where you think it is when that person imports it into their session. It has a delay, and the delay is actually significant enough that it can be a problem if you're not editing and nudging stuff around. It's a big enough issue, especially if you're not aware of it. So when I first discovered this, I thought, okay, great, just nudge back the MP3 by the amount that the MP3 codec seems to add to the beginning of MP3s. And it was just an issue with this version of Pro Tools. But it was not an issue isolated to that version of Pro Tools. And every DAW and different sample rates within different DAWs affects how much the delay is. So it's not even consistent to be able to nudge it back by that amount. So you're probably thinking, okay, how much delay could we possibly be talking about that nobody's ever noticed? Let me show you my discoveries as to exactly how much delay this actually is. I did a whole bunch of tests, and what I did is I took an original file and I imported it into Pro Tools, into Logic, and into Studio One. And then I exported. I did a bunch of exports. I did MP3s, I did waves, I did 48K, I did 44.1K, and I did online and offline bounces to see how they would export and how they would line up. Then I brought them all back into Pro Tools so I could see down to the sample how they all compare. First off, we have the original file here up top, and then we have the Pro Tools wave, the Logic wave, and the Studio One wave. And when you zoom in, they are 100% aligned with each other. There's no difference. That is why you need to use waves to export to actually record to, because they are exactly where they should be. Then we go into the MP3s. So I'm just going to minimize these waves so we don't get confused. So compared to the original file, we have the Logic MP3, which is the closest to the original, but you can still see it's quite a bit different off. Then we have Pro Tools 48K MP3. Then we have Pro Tools 44.1 MP3. Then further back yet, we have the Studio One MP3 at 48K, and then the Studio One MP3 at 44.1 is even more delayed. It's all fine and dandy when you can see how much it's delayed, but what are the actual numbers? It is significant. So going by numbers, first off, the closest to the original was the Logic MP3 export, which is 1,057 samples delayed, or 22 milliseconds. Following that, we have the Pro Tools export at 48K, which is 1,200 samples, or 25 milliseconds delayed. Then we have the 44.1, which is different from the 48K for some reason, and that is 1,307 samples delayed, or 27 milliseconds. Then following that up at the end, we have Studio One MP3 coming in at 2,257 samples, or 47 milliseconds. Then the 44.1 MP3 export is a whopping 2,456 samples delayed, or 51 milliseconds, which is roughly equivalent to a 30-second note delay. That is a significant amount when you're playing something to a track and then re-importing it into the original session where the delay is just not compensated for. That's big. Now, like I said, I did a whole bunch of tests with the different DAWs, and online versus offline doesn't make a difference. In each DAW, it seemed to be consistent with the amount of samples per MP3 export, no matter what I did with the actual exporting itself. I don't know if there is a fix to this. I don't know why it happens, but it does seem to be something that just has happened for a long time. I even tested the newest version of Pro Tools 2021, to Pro Tools 10, and it was the exact same problem. It's just built into the system. It's just something that you need to be aware of. If you're sending files for somebody to play to or work with, they need to be in time. You can't send MP3s for people to actually work on. You need to send WAV files or some other file format that does not have this delay. I didn't test other file formats yet, but you know, if you ever discover that this is a case with AAFs or anything else, let me know in the comments below. Now, if you're watching this and you know what the problem is, or you've encountered this before, or have some kind of workaround, or know more information about it, please leave it in a comment below or message me about this, because I'm very fascinated why this is still a thing, or why this is a thing at all in the first place. This is not a video on how to fix it, because there isn't really a way. This is just a PSA so that you don't send MP3s as stems anymore, because a 30-second note delay is significant. And, you know, the other ones aren't much better. But that is it for this video, guys. I hope this helped you and maybe even solved some problems that you need to figure out, like why your bass player is always late. Well, that's a different issue, but why your bass player's recordings are always late when you send them MP3s. I will see you in the next video. Until then, always be creating.